support drop a bit because the local population is has been brutalized and traumatized by war. So that makes sense. Somebody's waiting in the voice channel? Oh my God. Okay. All right, I just want to ask him the one question. All right, reboot. I only want to ask you one question, okay?
Go ahead.
I'm echoing a little bit. Could you turn the stream off?
Oh, sorry, I thought I did. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So where do you live again?
I live in New Mexico.
Okay. So if a hypothetical Native American extremist group, and when I say extremists, what I mean is somebody who is willing to engage in violence to accomplish some political goal or whatever. If a hypothetical extremist Native American group killed your entire family in their homes, would you blame your family?
Yeah, so before I answer that, because we're looking into hypotheticals, can I just give you a real scenario? Because there's survivors of October 7th that want a ceasefire, that think that what the IDF is doing is bad. You know
Sure.
that, right?
I mean, sure, you can find people in that, but you can also, I'm sure you realize you could probably find plenty of family members of people that have been taken hostage or killed that support the current campaign.
Yeah, but
So it doesn't really make a difference. Like it make a difference in the context of the conversation. You can find people in any conflict that have this or that opinion. It doesn't mean that
these are people that went through a tragedy that you and I could never experience.
Okay, but how does it bolster your point if you can find plenty of Israeli Jews that support the current campaign?
Because something like 70% of Israeli Jews support what's going on, but it doesn't change the fact that you asked me a question about what I would do in that situation.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. No, I'd ask you how you'd feel.
I don't know. I've never been in that situation, but there's people in that situation that are telling you that this is wrong, and they don't want this. They don't want to be responsible for this.
Like I said, there are plenty of Israeli Jews that experienced loss on that day that support the current campaign. So it's just a moot point. It doesn't matter. I'm asking you how you would feel if a extremist group, would you blame your family and say, well, they shouldn't have colonized?
I would hope that I would feel like those October 7th survivors that are now saying what Israel is doing is wrong. That's what I hope.
No. Regardless of the response, the initial action itself, just take the response out of the discussion altogether. Don't even factor that into your thinking. Before there is even an announced military response by the American government, let's say, 30 minutes ago, you got a call that this group murdered your family. Would you take the position of, well, they shouldn't have been colonizing?
Yeah, the family was genociding Native Americans. I would probably say you shouldn't be doing that. So
500 years ago? Your family didn't genocide any Native Americans.
You're asking me to put myself in the position 500 years ago, right?
No. I'm asking you right now, today. Right. Would you say, well, your family were colonizers, so they shouldn't have been there?
Today we're not genociding Native Americans. You know that.
Right. And do you realize a lot of the people that were killed on the kibbutzim were not alive in 1948 when the Nakba happened?
You know that genocide is happening before October 7th, right? Not going back to 1948, on October 6th, on October 5th, on October 1st.
No, I don't agree with that.
You don't agree with that?
No, I don't.
What do you think about the fact that there's no Hamas in the West Bank, yet they're constantly settling in the West Bank and taking their land and kicking people out?
I think that's fucked up. I think that's bad. I think that's fucked up and bad, yeah.
What should those people do about that?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like I would hope that we could find a way to navigate this situation without violence. But I think in the case of the West Bank settlements, the case for violence is way more justified there. So I agree. I agree with you. The West Bank settlements are fucked up. They're really, really bad.
So if what people in the West Bank fought back with violence, you would support that?
I mean, to an extent. I mean, if it meant like some kind of like, if it meant like, I don't know what kind of violence we're talking about here. So if it meant like if it meant Palestinians like storming like Israeli families' homes and like murdering entire families, no, I would not support that. That would be fucked up. That would be wrong, I think.
Is what they're doing to the settlers now. Like literally, that's what Israel is doing right now to Palestinians in the West Bank. They're storming their homes, they're killing them, they're burning their property.
I don't know. I don't know to what extent that is happening. I know there's some like instances of settler like terrorist violence. I don't know to what extent that's happening, but yeah, that's fucked up. That's really bad. It's really it's really but I feel like you're deflecting the situation here.
This is happening today, Hutch.
No, I think you are though, because like. Because I saw you in the chat, you were talking about like the Hamas situation, and I can't remember what specifically you were saying, but it seemed like you were sort of co-signing what Hamas did on October 7th.
See, this is the other problem I have with you, Hutch, right? Like I had a whole conversation with you, and one of the things I told you is that I do believe in voting. I just don't want to vote for Joe Biden because of this genocide. You told me I was lying, that that's not possibly what I could be thinking. Then you told your chat that that I'm not a voter, that I don't believe in voting. And then when I told you, hey man, that's not what I said, you banned me, right? So it's this thing where I tried to have a conversation with you about mistakes.
I didn't ban you. I gave you a 24-hour timeout.
Every time I try to talk to you, I get a 24-hour timeout.
Because you come in here saying nonsense, like very often.
What did I just say to you that's nonsense?
Well, when I gave you a 24-hour timeout today, it was because you kept on strawmanning the absolute shit out of me. So I said I proposed a thought experiment of a hypothetical group of Native American extremists who murdered your family, and you're like, oh, so that was okay that we fucking genocided Native Americans 500 years ago? I didn't say that. Why would you leap to that conclusion? It's just a weird deflection.
Because I assumed that you were talking about, let's put ourselves in the time of like the 1700s, where we're in here and we're taking Native American lands, because that's like the best analogy you could use for what's happening in Gaza and in the West Bank today. It's not what we're doing to the Native Americans today. Like, it's still not great what we're doing to them today, but like, it's not genocide. Whereas what's happening in Gaza absolutely is genocide.
Wait, hold on. How do you explain that?
How do I explain what? Sorry, clarify.
So what we're doing right now to the Native Americans is not genocide, because the land is occupied. This is settled. This is 100-year-old conflict, or 100-year-old matter that's been essentially settled. But how do you apply that to like a family living on the kibbutzim who weren't even alive when the United Nations partitioned Israel in 1948? They're not. Are you saying that family living on the kibbutzim was doing genocide to Palestinians?
Again, first of all, this isn't just 1940. You keep going back to 1948. This has been happening every day since 1948. This has not stopped. This is not something that happened in 1948 and then we're done.
Let's just no. What you're saying is simply not true. Like, the level of violence, the level of escalation that occurred after October 7th was certainly not like the norm in this region for the last several decades. The October 7th represented a unique escalation of violence, and Israel's response commensurately increased. What's happening right now is obviously worse than what we had been seeing before. You seem to be making the case that, like, well, Israel's been doing this for fucking 6 decades. Like, really? What we're seeing, like the level of bombing that we saw after October 7th, they've been doing that for the last 7 decades. The physical occupation when they weren't even occupying Gaza for the last 20 years.
So, that's what, I mean, you're doing a straw man. Like, I never said that. I never said it's the same exact level of bombing. But it's still a crazy amount of bombing. Like, they don't have clean water. They don't have access to safe water. Like, before October 7th, like 97% of Gazans didn't have access to clean water. The deadliest year for children in Gaza before this happened was just a couple of years ago. Like you have to understand that, no, I mean, like, Israel didn't wipe out 90% of the country before October 7th, sure. But still, what Israel was doing to Gaza and to the West Bank before October 7th was just vile and unacceptable.
Well, I can't speak to your figures about like drinking water. I'd have to look into that. I'm skeptical to take you at your word, to be honest with you. I don't feel like you're a reliable purveyor of information. But yeah, really, I just don't think you've established yourself as being a reliable source of information. But you brought up the bombing before. Like it kind of blows my mind that you bring up like Israel bombing Gaza, but you realize that Hamas fires thousands of rockets into Israel every year, right? Like multiple thousands of rockets.
Mm-hmm.
At what point does that factor into your thinking?
How many people do rockets kill?
Doesn't matter. What difference does it make?
Because whenever Israel drops a bomb, it kills a shitload of people. Whenever Gaza responds,
no, it doesn't.
It doesn't kill anybody most of the time.
You say that Gaza is
I can send it to you if you unban me from your chat. Here's the headline: Gaza's undrinkable water slowly poisoning Palestinians.
Again,
Human rights organizations have warned for years about the deteriorating water situation in the Gaza Strip, exacerbated by Israel's attack in May. Now, this is a 2001, and there was an attack in May.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this has been an ongoing thing. Like, and if you say you don't trust me, I have the article right here. I can send you.
Sure, I will look into this on my own. But I'm not even necessarily like. I'm not now, nor have I ever denied that Israel has taken steps that I consider to be abhorrent. I'm just saying, like, in the context of this conflict, nobody on quote your side wants to acknowledge that Hamas themselves have played a key role in this violence. That Hamas themselves have played a key role on October 7th. Like, if you're upset about the situation in Gaza, if you're upset that the people in that region are suffering, why do you not reserve like any of that anger or frustration for Hamas for putting them in this position in the first place?
Because Hamas isn't blockading Gaza. Israel is blockading Gaza.
Why are they blockading Gaza?
Because they want to control it. They say it's a security.
No. Why?
You tell me. Go ahead.
You tell me. Why did the blockade?
They want to genocide the people of Gaza.
You brought up the blockade, so I assume you know the history of how that blockade started and why it started. So tell me why it started.
When they pulled out, what was it, in 2006, right?
Mm-hmm.
They then blockaded everything. They banned stuff like potato chips.
Why?
Because they want to genocide those people.
No. Why?
Because they want to genocide those.
Could it be because Israel was suffering like hundreds of suicide bombing camp attacks from Hamas? Yes. Well, in the years running up to that, could it be that Hamas was engaged in like multiple, like many, like dozens of terrorist attacks?
You're talking about in the second intifada. What caused
even previous to that, even prior to that?
Prior to the second intifada, it was mostly peaceful resistance.
Bro, okay.
Attacks on both sides.
All right, it was good talking with you. I can't do it. I can't fucking do it.